Hello and welcome to the Power of You.
Heidi ho, neighbor.
I'm Blaine Bartlett.
I am Doland White. Welcome to the Power of You. As Blaine just said, just in case you didn't hear it there, welcome to the Power of You.
There you go.
Yeah.
And we are going to play a little bit today. We're going to invite you to kind of participate along because the theme of today, and this is all things leadership, and part of our definition of leadership, which we're going to talk about here in a minute, very briefly,
Right.
but co-creation. The idea of getting somebody else to come along with you. You're not a leader really until you got followers. So
Oh, yeah.
we want to have followers that want to follow. We don't want to have followers that feel like they have to because you're the boss, and the heads will roll if you don't.
That's right.
That doesn't work so well.
Not if you're planning for longevity.
Yeah, and we tend to look at things through the lens of effectiveness, efficiency, and longevity.
That's right.
How do you sustain things?
Telling people what to do will usually work until you fall asleep.
Yeah.
Then all bets are off after that.
Yeah. Then they'll take the stick out of your hand, or they'll take the pot of money out of your wallet.
Or exactly. Yeah. Something else is going to happen at that point in time. So yes, from a longevity perspective, not a good strategy.
Not a good strategy at all. So
no.
The power of you, you as a leader, you have a lot of say in how things unfold. There's nobody out there but you. I mean, just start with that premise, folks. We're going to get a little metaphysical today here. There's nobody out there, and there's no thing out there except you. Everything that you experience is a expression of what's going on inside. Now, we could do a very deep dive on that. We're not going to.
We could.
We'd be here for a while. We just might at some point in time here, just to kind of keep things, on the giggle side.
That's exactly right.
What we're looking at here is what happens when things are not co-created, when people are actually coming with, I got to do this. Compliance is the name of the game in this particular thing here. Compliance, not commitment. And this is pandemic in most organizations.
My gosh.
It is just ubiquitous. I got to do this. My boss told me to do this. I don't want to do this, but I'm supposed to do this. And none of those things are organized around the idea of, I want to do this. This is meaningful to me. There's no ownership. People do just enough to have you stop watching. And as soon as you go to sleep, as Doland was mentioning, all bets are off. I mean, the conversations around the water cooler, if you still have a water cooler, I'm going to date myself with that one. But it's kind of like, this is the stupidest thing I ever heard of. And oops, here's the boss. Pay attention. Let her think that we know what we're doing here.
Yeah.
Those sorts of things.
Yeah, it's funny. That's whole thing. And number two, right? The symptoms. And we start here because think about these as we're talking about them inside of the body of your organization, your teams, from your perspective, and as you're watching other leaders, that you're responsible for helping them lead. But meeting conversations are centered around quick agreement. I love all these symptoms that we talk about every week. The symptom of we're in a meeting. I'm in a meeting. I already know what the solution is. So your alternative point of view is non sequitur, as Spock would say. It's non sequitur. Doesn't matter to me. And I'm not seeking anything out. And if you accidentally find a nook and cranny where I manage to stop talking and insert your thought, I don't care.
We're going to just find a way to ignore that. Well, kind of nod politely because after all, we're nice people.
Well, yeah. I used to tell my team all the time, no ideas are stupid. And if they are, I'll tell you.
So. Yeah, exactly. Alternative points of view literally are not actively sought out.
That's right.
And this one's interesting because there is and I know that this is universal. I've been on just literally every continent except Antarctic, and I'm probably assuming, or I am going to assume it's true of penguins as well. But one of the greatest phenomena in the human condition is the need to be right.
Oh, yeah.
the need to be right.
Right.
And this is one of the reasons we don't seek out alternative points of view. I mean, the idea of a confirmation bias is very real. It's kind of like, tell me what I think I'd like to hear. Tell me something that validates. And even the best of us will do this. It's kind of crazy making. Conversations are centered around quick agreement. Agreement about what? Agreement about my mindset. Agreement that is consistent with how I see the world, what I think is true, all of that stuff.
Yeah, it's all me.
It's all me. Yeah. Nobody out there but me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm the center of my universe.
Therefore, and I'm quite attractive. So
Yeah, exactly.
exactly. But it's interesting. But that they hook together, right? It's that point where it's funny, Blaine, because we see this with our clients. Right?
Yep.
Meetings happen. That when meetings happen, seldom are they about how are we doing. They're not there to evaluate improvements, which hooks into that last, which is the criteria is based on KPIs and OKRs. If I have either I have hit the number or I have not hit the number, and everything is going to resolve around that KPI.
Yep. This is where the use of the word number comes in real strongly. Have you hit your number? Are we on target for our numbers?
You love how many meetings have we been in where that was the title of the numbers, Q4 numbers.
Q4 numbers. Yep.
Okay.
I'm prepared.
And everybody goes, everybody tightens up a little bit before we come in the door because we don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. If they're bad, I'm in trouble. If they're good, I might still be in trouble.
Yep. So, and what's interesting about that, just from a sustainably, how do you sustain success in life? How do you sustain success in business? It's not about hitting your numbers. It's about identifying something that is meaningful and then organizing everything around that meaning. Why is it important to hit the number? Oh, that's why it's important. Well, let's talk about how we're not doing that.
Right.
Take the numbers off the table here.
Yeah.
So individual and team performance, almost all evaluation processes are organized around how did you do?
Mm-hmm. And what did you do?
And what did you do? We gave you some marching orders the first of the year. This is your mid-year review. And how'd you do on those KPIs?
Right.
Those OKRs that we set up.
What and how? Let's bring it. Yeah, that's what this is a fun conversation because this is a shift today on what this means with co-creating as we get to slice and dice up the definition of leadership.
And a couple of quotes here. Yeah, I mean, Zappos. I love Zappos because Tony has done some very interesting things, and it's all around the way that the culture was developed. We believe that it's really important to come up with core values. Yeah. See, this is what we organize around when we're co-creating. Yeah. Values guide behaviors. And they can't, in order for them to have utility, they can't be artwork.
Yes. So glad you said that. It's funny. I was on a call a couple of days ago, couple of days ago, talking specifically about core values. And the fact that most mission statement core values, what are those? Those are the bumper rails, right? That's your bumper rails. All of the other stuff, and Tony did a great job. We'll call him Tony, even though we should probably call him something else. Mr. Tony, I'm not sure. Mr. Zapp. But it's great because that's a really important part around the values by which your team works, how they work together, what they're working towards, that cohesion with the bumper rails around what are our core values, what are our ethical barriers that move us, and then combine that with that worthy ideal, you are unstoppable. And then do measures later.
Measures. Yeah. The measures are important. We're not going to toss the baby out with the bath here. This is for sure.
No.
The metrics are important. But when we're talking about it from a leadership perspective, co-creation, one of the foundational components of co-creation has to do with what's the culture that is being created in your organization. That is a co-created artifact.
Right. Not the climate.
Right.
The
Not
culture,
the climate.
not the climate of your company. But yeah, I just love this. And so Tony, for leaders that are listening to this, go look up the word holacracy
Yes.
and hierarchical organization rather than hierarchical organization. And it'll give you a little insight to how Tony thought about team structures and why he was able to change Zappos to what Zappos is.
Actually became,
Yeah.
just an extraordinary organization.
Yeah. Set the model
And,
for many, many, many organizations.
and you know,
Pixar.
yeah, Pixar, was founded by Steve Jobs.
Yeah.
And yeah, after he was ejected from Apple, he founded Pixar, and he just
You talk
absolutely
about rebound.
blew. Oh boy,
Yeah.
absolutely crazy what Pixar ended up doing.
Oh my
Hallmark of
God.
a healthy creative culture is that its people feel free to share ideas, opinions, criticisms. That's what we're looking for here. Lack of candor,
Mhm.
dysfunctional environments. If people don't feel as if they've got a voice, and this goes back to then, how do you create a culture that is representative of the brand that you're trying to create? Yet people
Right.
have to have a voice in it. They have to have a voice in it.
Right. And there's a mechanism for that. But gosh darn it, the bubble just popped on who said the quote of feedback is the breakfast of champions, but it's a coach. But anyway, I know I remember that it's a coach. Anyway,
Yep.
you probably remember the name faster than I do.
Yeah. Now, as soon as you said you forgot it, I forgot it. Warren Bennis. Warren Bennis.
There we go. Perfect.
Warren Bennis. Ew.
Yeah.
So,
But that hooks back into that symptom. Leaders, if you're thinking about that symptom around, if you're in a meeting, right, and there's not feedback, there's not candor, none of that stuff is happening, then you're creating that dysfunctional environment because people will leave. They will either retire in place or they will leave your organization because what I'm doing doesn't matter. What
Yeah.
I think doesn't matter. How I feel doesn't matter. And if I don't matter, I'm not staying.
And I mean, when you think about it through the lens of co-creation, I matter if I feel as if I'm co-creating this, that I've got some skin in the game, that there's something here that is valuable to me
Right.
as well as to the
Instantly,
company.
yeah, instantly I can it may not work and we may not do it the way I co-created it with you, but I at least contributed. I
I
matter.
contributed. Contribution.
Yes,
Yeah.
I matter.
I matter. That's a big deal. I matter.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
So how do you go about doing that? Well, we've got some models. We're not going to, those of you that are familiar with the power of you, we go through these every time we do this.
Yes.
Very briefly, because we've done this a lot here, the leadership universe. Your leadership activities take place within a very defined and discrete universe that has components to it, little levels of effectiveness. Yeah. Why, what, and how? Vision, strategy, tactics. That's what that is. Vision, strategy, tactics. That is not enough to, it's not enough to define vision. It's not enough to identify a strategic direction, and it's not enough to keep the focus on tactical execution. That does not create in and of itself the invitation to co-create. Oftentimes it's said, management team goes away and they come back and they impose the vision on the team. They impose the strategy. And it's kind of like, okay, what's your job? My job is to do what I'm told. Okay. You got, boy, red flags and bells and sirens go off at that point in time. You drop into a mindset. Mindset is where belief systems are kept. Yeah. This is the kind of the locker room of in the safe of belief systems. You want to be able to open that box up. The use of the imagination, when you're willing to play with this, the use of the imagination comes into play here. And when you have got people that are being imaginative, innovative, you've got co-creation in the process. Okay. People come up with ideas. And typically these things start to work when they're connected to what we call the spirit of the organization, the soul, that founding kernel that gives it life. That's the leadership universe. The work that Doland and I do is almost exclusively centered around mindset and spirit. Mindset and spirit. Imagination is the gateway into the spirit. So how do you keep that aliveness in play here?
Yeah.
And then the 4 pillars are mechanistic ways in which we actually approach work in those 2 domains, mindset and spirit.
Nicely said. And dun dun dun. Not that we've talked about these ever before, but the 4 pillars, just high 10-second glimpse into it. This is a living circle. It's not 4 things that you do by themselves. It's kind of like
Right.
when you think about mindset, same thing with mindset, imagination, and spirit. There is not mindset and then spirit somewhere over here sitting on that stool in the corner of my office, and then imagination. All of these things live, breathe, eat, sleep together and change depending upon where you are, the season of your business. We should show that cocktail napkin sometime.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'm gonna make note of that one.
That's a good idea. Seasonality. But
Yeah.
there's trust and recovery. That goes back a long time. Trust and autonomy. Trust is that agreement that I trust me, you trust you, and we can build a trusted relationship. Autonomy is the willingness and permission to try, to give people permission to try. Communication, it's not about how we talk, but the willingness to have the conversation. Candor, transparency means we're not going to transparency we can get into in greater depth another time, but systems of accountability is not a Trello board. Systems of accountability is our
love Trello
mutual,
boards. I know you do.
our mutual agreement to and with each other to move confidently towards a worthy ideal. That's our system of we are accountable to and with each other. And keyword with. And growth and innovation. Innovation is that willingness to think differently. And those things combined with mindset and spirit and soul create unstoppable organizations that can sustain scale. Because one of the challenges when you scale your organization rapidly, your risk always is losing culture, losing mindset because of the velocity at which you're moving. These things help you sustain that model so that you can grow forward. And there's a shameless plug for what we do. So
Absolutely. And the idea of scaling is intimately linked to co-creation. You're not going to do that by yourself.
Right here to what we're talking about today. Yeah.
Yeah. So the way we define leadership and leadership causes movement. Period. The end. That's what leaders do. They cause things to shift, to change. Leadership causes movement. If you're not getting the kind of movement you need to produce the result that you want, the place to look is, okay, what am I setting in motion? And so what we're doing and how am I setting it in motion? So we define leadership as the activity of influencing. It takes command and control out of the game.
Yeah.
You're not telling, you're inviting people to participate. Co-creation becomes something that is going on at that point in time. So influencing in order to co-create coordinated movement. Remember, leaders are causing movement. Coordinated movement. When you start moving people into places you've never been, particularly if you're scaling, you're going to start stretching and stressing the organization. You're going to start adding stuff you've never had before. I guarantee you, because it's unknown territory, people are going to bump heads. You're going to step on each other's toes. So the idea of coordinated movement is not kumbaya. It's how do I manage and leverage effectively the conflict, the inevitable conflict that is going to emerge. And I want it to emerge. I want to be able to use conflict. There's energy there, but it has to be directed and it has to be contained so it doesn't become a wildfire. That's what we're looking at, mitigating, when we're looking at this definition. And it's all in pursuit of this worthy ideal. And that's how you keep, the fire contained. It's focused on a worthy ideal. Not a KPI, but something that is much deeper and much richer. That worthy ideal. What matters? What matters? And that's essentially what we're looking at here for the sake of what?
Yeah. Yeah. And I love this because it's the very first sentence says that this is not your vision. It is not your goals. It's not your objective. This is what matters. And what I think is really cool about this plan is always the fact when we talk about this, just briefly today, because this goes into co-creation. This ties very closely into co-creation. It's about what matters to that person.
Yeah.
Because what matters to you is going to be different than what matters to me. And what matters, and there's an alignment. It has to be an alignment with the destination that the business is moving towards. There's an alignment that has to occur. but it is the worthy ideal is what matters to you. What, in other words, we use all the time too, is inspiration. What inspires you, what lights you up. And that's the for the sake of what, that's what's at the end of the,
Yeah.
and that's the flip side of that is that's what you serve. If you're leaders in the business of serving, we all serve clients, it is you got to know they're for the sake of what?
Yep.
Because that's what you serve.
That's what you serve. Yep. Everything is in service of that for the sake of what? You're causing movement for the sake of what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Otherwise, all bets are off, and people are squirrely. They're gonna run off to the all kinds of wood piles.
I love that term.
Such
a technical term. If people are squirrely,
squirrely. Yeah.
It'd be so much easier without people. Anyway,
it would. Yeah. Absolutely. Designed the perfect organization, screwed it up when we put people in it.
Exactly.
So,
indeed.
Which, literally is kind of where we're landing here. Co-creation requires intentionality. It doesn't just organically emerge, folks. It doesn't.
Love that.
You gotta pay attention. And when you're thinking about it through the lens of intentionality, what am I intending? Well, and how do I go about setting that up? Well, self-awareness. Now, self-awareness, I'm going to unbundle that one just a little bit here. Please. It's not only awareness of what's going on in my mindset, it's introspection. Okay, I feel compelled to move that way. Where does that come from? So emotional intelligence comes into play here a little bit, but also your organization has got a mindset. This is where the culture, intentionally creating the culture. You got a bunch of folks coming together, and that coming together creates a cultural stew. You want to intentionally identify the elements of that stew that will serve where you're going, creating movement, and collectively and collaboratively doing so in a way that gets you where you'd like to go. So it's a foundation of both personal and organizational mastery. And this goes right back to the point where we're having some meetings that are organized around how are we doing? How are we doing? Yeah, that's a question of self-awareness. How are we doing?
Yeah. I just love that. There's the world famous Clint Eastwood line. A man's got to know his limitations.
Exactly.
My best Clint Eastwood imitation I can do, but it's so true from self-awareness, courage. When I think about this, and I love this comment around taking action in the presence of fear and uncertainty. One of the things around a leader is about being a leader is there's a vulnerable, and courage requires some vulnerability.
Absolutely.
Courage is that willingness to be vulnerable enough to know that I don't know all of the details of the outcome. I don't know. I've not been on this path. I don't know where I'm going. It's kind of like, I was thinking of an analogy this a couple of days ago, Blaine, which is kind of like if you've ever ridden a mountain bike down a mountain on a path you've never been on.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going downhill like a bat out of hell, and you're going around these curves, and you don't know. I mean, you don't know. You don't know if you're going to go around the corner and there's a cliff, or there's a tree, or there's a bear, or a rock, or it's going to be smooth sailing, or sand, or whatever. But courage is the willingness and the vulnerability required as a leader to be able to take action regardless of your personal fear and uncertainty.
Yeah. And we did a whole thing on trust and in one of these powers of use. So part of vulnerability is frightening. Do I trust myself to handle the consequences of the action I'm about to take?
Yep.
Do I trust myself to get up if I got knocked down? Do I trust myself to leap that chasm that just appeared and do it in a way that brings you with me? And all of that stuff comes into play here. And we're going to go into a little bit deeper dive on this next one, discernment here, which has to do with choosing effectively. How do you make decisions, and what gets in? Yeah, we want to put something in front of decision making. Typically, it's that for the sake of what, and that becomes kind of that becomes kind of the orientation piece. But then within that, for the sake of what, you get to actually do some things from a discernment perspective that can either inhibit what you're doing or enhance what you're doing. So we'll come back to that one in just a minute. And then
Inclusion.
inclusion.
Look, so I want to make sure. So inclusion is, there's a lot of paradigms around the word inclusion, but let's focus on it from is paradigmic a word? I don't know if
Paradigmic is a word.
Thank you. I feel better. That's a $3
You just
word.
made it up. You just coined it.
Look it up, paradigmic. But let's think about it from that. But it is that ability to connect to a greater whole, that it is included. So when we talk about for the sake of what, that's one part of the greater whole. Another part of the greater whole is that I call it chain of custody in leadership. As a leader, we have a chain of custody. And our chain of custody is the people in our team, the people that they serve, their family, their teams, but not only that, but their families. So inclusion to me is connecting to that greater whole and being cognizant, fully self-aware, and being cognizant of that, so that we are connected, we are fully connected to it. Are we going to be perfect? Unlikely.
Yep. And perfection is not what we're striving for.
No.
We're striving here for inclusion. And the idea of perfection, that drops us into that last piece here around practice. Yep. We're always practicing something, and our behavior is is literally a representation of things that we've practiced. And most of us practice validating an existing mindset. And so how I describe something determines how I feel about it. How I feel about it generates my behavior. If we want to have different behavior in our organizations and we want to invite people to participate differently, we have to be able to find ways to fix and work with and explore the description process. Intentional habit formation requires exploration and then action.
Yeah.
Exploration and then action. Well, let's practice this. Let's practice this. If we've got a core value of integrity, how do we practice that in the way that we go to market? How do we practice being integrous in our sales process, in our onboarding?
Yeah.
How do we practice that? So it's intentional. It's intentional. This goes back to Tony Hsieh's whole point here. I mean, we have to be willing to hire and fire. Yeah. In one sense, based on people's willingness to step into and practice our values. Nobody's expecting them to be perfect, but are you willing to practice them?
Yeah, and they're not. It's just three special words. Get over it.
Yep.
They're never going to be perfect. But I love your point, Blaine, around practice, because at the end of the day, when we are building habits, and I don't really care if it's a personal habit on I'm going to eat better or I'm going to do this. It is the practice. It is instilling the practice and the willingness to take action towards that. And it boils it down to, if you're going to do something intentional, you got to continually practice it. Are you going to get it right all the time? No.
Right. And again, it's not about being right. It's not about getting it right, which actually moves us into this whole discernment area. But you're looking at, one of the things that you're looking to practice here is, how do I co-create with my people? How do I co-create? How do I invite them in? You want to practice that, because that is not a muscle that most leaders have developed well.
Yeah. And if you're building it off of right or wrong, which I think is the next slide, by the way.
Exactly where we're going.
Yeah. Then it's a problem.
It's a problem. It is. So this discernment, basically, how do you choose effectively? And first of all, you've got for the sake of what in front of you? What matters? Now, there's levels and gradations on this, and we'll start from the bottom here. The easiest way to make distinctions, if you will, here, or to discern, what's happening, is to judge it: good, bad, right, wrong. That's one where we will get wrapped around the axle real quick, because judgment will always cause defensiveness.
Yeah.
Judgment is got embedded in it exclusion. And if you're looking to co-create, exclusion doesn't work real well when you're looking to co-create.
Yes. And that's incredibly, I think maybe we'll linger here for a moment or two, but I think for all of the things that we're talking about today, that's probably one of the hardest skills as a leader to master with your team is judgment.
Yeah. Another word we can use there is assessment. Yeah, I'm assessing this as good. I'm assessing this as bad. I'm being specific here with the linguistics. Assessments open and close possibilities,
Yeah.
and that's what
We're designed
leadership
for
is
that.
about. Yeah, yeah. Assessments are designed for opening and closing possibilities. Leadership is the
Yeah.
activity in part of
Yeah.
illuminating possibilities for the people that are working with us, illuminating possible futures. So right, wrong, good, bad, you can hear the doors closing, on possibilities.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a place for, like, I gave a client today, I sent him an assessment. But it's specific. This is an assessment that tells me where you are in this scale in your thinking, which helps me then discern what it is that serves you based on where you see yourself today. So assessments are there, but as a leader, we tend to, I think it's easy for us, Blaine, to fall into that model because we're schooled to be right, wrong.
Yeah.
We're schooled to be responsible. We're schooled to be, and it's that take a breath, step back, allow for a moment of silence, and think about it from that perception, that concept of I'm not judging it right or wrong, because I'm basing it on the norms of my norms.
My norms. And you're in judgment when you've got some emotionality around it.
Oh goodness.
Because right and wrong, good and bad evoke a values conflict.
Yes. And they're never going to line up.
Yep.
There's never going to line up. We all bring way too much baggage to be in alignment.
So what we want to be able to do, and remember, this whole idea of discernment is about choosing effectively. What we're choosing is a course of action. What we're choosing is a way to actually engage. Well, how do we bring people in? How do we co-create? The next level up is evaluation. And it is subtle, but really distinctly different from judgment/assessment. An evaluation is a form of an assessment, but it's organized around, is this working or not working? Working or not working? You don't hear a values assessment in there about good, bad, right, wrong. It's just a simple observational evaluation. Did this work or did this not work? If this worked, let's find ways to do more of that together.
Right.
If this didn't work, what do we need to do to course correct? And if it's framed in the language of that didn't work, people are far more willing to say, sign me up, we'll figure this out. If it's you screwed up, that was wrong, you did a bad thing, it's kind of like, I'm not going to want to engage again here. I'm going to kind of cover my head.
But it also goes back to that, remember the symptom slide when we're talking the symptoms around meetings and where I'm not here for your opinion. I'm not here for, if you're not, and I'm not here for feedback. I already know my feedback. I'm doing a good job. I already know that. And I'm attractive. So when you're in that mode, it's as a leader, think about that. Are you entering in this to evaluate, or are you looking to score this as working, not working, right or wrong, good, bad? And I love the comments in here, which is where we tend to go, because the great thing about those sentences, I was thinking about that too this week, Blaine, working with one of the clients, is that's a simple place to get to.
Absolutely.
Evaluation's a hard place to get to.
Yeah. You got to work with yourself on that one. The next level up is really an interesting place to go. And this one is organized around opportunity, I think, is probably the best way to phrase this here.
Good word.
Again, possibilities. And possibilities emerge when we notice things that we've never noticed before. When we start paying attention to things in a different way, we see things differently.
Right.
And when that happens, this is what distinctions are about. It's kind of like, and this literally follows right out of working, not working. I never noticed that pattern was present. Now, I'm not judging it. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm not saying it works or doesn't work. It's just kind of like, huh, that's an interesting pattern. Hadn't recognized that before. Yeah, that opens up possibilities for different kinds of collaborative moves. And that can be incredibly powerful. It literally becomes the difference that makes a difference. Because most of us, and I'll just kind of go down a rabbit hole here, but most of us have 70,000 thoughts a day. Most human beings, studies show over and over and over again that most of us have in the neighborhood of 70,000 thoughts a day. 95%, 98% of them are the same thoughts we had yesterday. How I describe something determines how I feel about it, which generates my behavior. So what am I not noticing I want to interrupt the patterns. Until I can interrupt a pattern that is running, I can't insert anything new because the pattern will kick it out.
That's right. Yeah, it's so funny. I love that because it's, the thing here, Blaine, is, about noticing what you're we talk about noticing what you're noticing. Right? Take a breath, notice it, and ask those questions. There's a great, TED Talk from years ago, and I'll have to, now it makes me want to go back and find it, about thinking like a 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And for those of you who have anybody with grandkids, go hang out with your 2-year-old grandkid, or 3-year-old grandkid, or 4-year-old, 5-year-old grandkid. Much past 5, the questions change. But at 5, and they start asking you questions like, well, why does it do that? Well, why is it that color? Well, what happens if we blah, blah, blah? Why can't we? Well, don't worry about that. And notice what you're noticing and ask the questions from the point, ask them from a perspective that you've not have thought about before. That's hard to do, which again means as a leader, you got to stop, take pause, take a breath, step out of judging, step out of right and wrong, and ask the question. What have I not noticed before? What differences might make a difference?
What's the difference that makes a difference? And oftentimes what I'll do, and I've done this, I cannot tell you how many times, I'll take a client that I'm working with on a leadership coaching engagement, and we'll just go through a walk, for a walk in a mall. We don't do malls anymore, but go for a walk in a park. Just go and I'll literally have them point out to me things that they've never noticed, either in the way that people are walking. Okay, notice how they're walking. What do you think they're paying attention to based on how their body is showing up right now?
Right.
Well, I've never thought about that. And now I'm noticing something that I've never noticed before. Well, how does that translate? I took a guy out onto the golf course that I was working with years ago, and I used golf. He loved golf. He used golf as the metaphor for how he was leading his organization. Notice what happens to your state of being when you mishit a shot and you end up in the sand.
Yes.
And you can see the steam coming out of his ears. Okay, well, let's just notice that.
Yeah.
And notice what I haven't been noticing in its domain specific. So can I transfer that over to here? Yes, I can. How I do anything is how I do everything. Let's notice where that shows up.
Yeah. I love it. Just love that. There was a kind of going on. I used to call it going on walkabout.
Yes.
Which just go sit somewhere that has nothing to do with what you do. There's always conversations. It's fun. I love that you mentioned that, Blaine, because there's the conversations around, well, I'm going to go, if I'm in this business, I'm going to go sit in somebody else doing what I do and see how they do it. Well, that's okay. That's good. Go sit with somebody who doesn't do what you do.
Yeah.
See what you notice. See what you learn. See what you can figure. See what happens there. But it is that level. It's like, what differences make a difference?
What difference makes a difference? I do a lot of work in hospital systems with executive groups and whatnot. And with docs, there's this whole notion of rounding. And they get out into the hospital and they just round. I mean, they go see the patients. They go see what's going on the floor, and it's not so much for patient care, also, although that is certainly a very major part of it. But docs that do it well, they take it as a practice of noticing what they haven't noticed before. And it goes back to this notion of what's working, what's not working.
Right.
Not what's wrong, who screwed up. That's not what they're looking for.
No.
What's working here, what's not working here. And Yeah, and you'll see this in the ER. You'll see this in the general floor. I mean, they round for the intent of, in large part, learning something.
Yeah.
Learning something that makes a difference.
Exactly.
That's what we want to be able to do as a leader, and then they can co-create with that. They can actually, kind of take a charge nurse or the floor nurse and say, "I've just noticed something here that I hadn't seen before. Can you talk to me a little bit about what that is?
Yeah.
Are we doing something here that is unusual, or I mean, all kinds of conversations can emerge."
Yeah, I love that too, Blaine, because that's that conversation. Because when you're in that conversation with someone, we use the charge nurse as the example that you just talked about. That's first of all, and we did this. Gosh, we've done, I don't know, 600 or 700 power reviews at this point. I don't even know how many we've done at this point.
I don't either.
A lot. But we were talking about acknowledgement a couple of powers review ago, but the power of being with someone in an organization and saying, "I noticed this." Acknowledge it. First of all, it acknowledges them.
Mm-hmm.
And it empowers it. At that moment, when you say, "Hey, I noticed this. What could we do? Or can you help me?" And that automatically turns that person and makes them a co-conspirator. They will co-create with you in a heartbeat.
Yep.
Because you've noticed, acknowledged, given permission, asked for help. And they're your friend.
And they lean in.
Yeah, and they will.
Yeah.
They will. If you start it with, "I noticed you did that wrong," what's the very first thing that's going to happen? What do you mean wrong?
Okay.
I've been doing this.
You have no idea what I put up with.
I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been fighting fires for 20 years. So we're taking your matches.
Yes.
Anyway, but yeah, I love this because this is when we were talking about this particular episode for Power of You, this whole conversation around co-creating. And what does it mean to co-create? And it means to set aside the judgment, set aside assessment, notice what you haven't seen before, ask that question. And then create that, to your point, this last thing you just talked about was that compassionate connection.
Compassionate connection, which moves us, ideally it moves us into this top area here, which in Buddhistic philosophy, this has a whole different connotation than what we're addressing it as right here. Non-distinction has to do with non-duality. But in this case, I'm going to just take that non-duality piece and just kind of lay it on an organization and leadership. We, not you, we, not I, we are our results. Our results are a reflection of who we are. Who we are. And not what we're doing, but who we are.
Yeah.
That shows up in the results that we're producing. That's a compassionate connection. And that gives license to have conversations about how we are doing as we are being out there in the world in which we are conducting our business.
Yeah.
That is a completely different level of conversation.
Yeah. It sets aside the I, me, my.
Yeah. We, our, us, they, them, theirs, all of that stuff gets collapsed.
Yeah.
Now it's just a we.
Yeah. It's we. We are the results.
We are the results.
Yeah. And that's it. And that moves us. That takes us into discernment. And now that's it. So leaders, you hear, we've dissected. We had a great power review, quite a while ago on the definition of leadership. But take a listen to this, because the co-creation piece.
Yeah.
Influencing others to co-create coordinated movement. The co-creation piece. Got to get that part right.
Got to get it right. You can't achieve coordinated movement in the way that you want if it's not co-created.
Yeah. It breaks there, because we talk about that influencing, co-created, movement. If you don't have co-created, influence failed, coordination fails.
Yep.
And the whole definition collapses in on itself.
So
on that good news, so what do you do?
Yeah. Hey, we're putting all of these together. I mean,
yeah,
Dolan and I mean, collectively, we've been doing this for about 90 years.
Give or take a nickel. Yeah.
Give or take. And, in a conversation right around the first of the year, just to kind of, I know that we're this is as evergreen as we can here, but the idea of we've got a lot of knowledge here that is useless unless people have access to it. So that's what we're doing with this Power of You is, we just, frick and frack here. I mean, we just kind of bounce stuff off of each other. And hopefully it's bouncing in a way that you find has some utility and usefulness. We're putting all of these powers of you in a curated library.
Yeah.
And they're accessible to you. Every one of them, begins with, just kind of the overview of the leadership universe, the 4 pillars, the definition of leadership, and then we jump into a topical area. That's the kind of the cadence in which we're doing this. We've got all kinds of stuff that we're looking at. We've done a whole series on decision making. We've done trust. We started a large part of this right at the front end of this with the 5 lies of leadership.
Right.
Just to kind of level set the stage and set some definitions, definitional components in place here. Mindset. We did a whole thing on mindset and leading quality, taking Deming's 14 pillars of total quality management and looking at them through the lens of leadership, not management. We did a whole distinction piece around what's the difference between leadership and management and more. I mean, and we're adding to this library every single week. So it's available to you. Yeah, it's available to you. That's basically where this is going. So if you're interested, you can have access to it by going to leader.blainebartlett.com/power of you.
There you go. Go right there.
It's over there. It's over there. Yeah.
It's over there. Go.
Leader.blainebartlett/the-power of you. And when you're working with it, kind of unbundle. They're all, lined up there. The videos, there's PDF of all of the slides that we use in each one of these things. So, all of that's available to you. The intent, Dolan, might want to address this one here. Don't just, hoard this for yourself. Just watch it. Run it by your team.
Yeah, no, to your point. I mean, that's and think of that specifically, and in short is, look, it's a curated library, and yes, there's a membership involved in the library. The library gets stacked every week. We're adding more powers of use to it. One of the challenges you face as a leader is helping your team. So give them access. This is access to a library, not access to a license. So there's a key distinct thing that there's no license involved, none of that paraphernalia. It's access to the library. Give your team access to it. Share that with them. Help them have an opportunity to learn and grow from young guys like us. Yay. This is an opportunity. Think of the damage we could do to your team together. So go do that, but share this with
share with your team. And to Dolan's last point there, feel free to reach out to us. I mean, we would love to come and sit with you and your team. I mean, honestly,
easy.
We are very accessible, and both of us are on LinkedIn. You can reach us very easily on LinkedIn. Just ping us, and if you want to have a conversation about how we might be able to assist what you're doing with your organization, don't be shy.
There you go. That's what we do.
That's what we do. Okay. And all right. That being said, we're going to pull that back and open that up. And there we go.
Good conversation today.
I loved it. And
good conversation.
Life is good. So, folks, we'll see you on the next one. And I'm not sure what that one's going to be topically organized around. We'll make that one up when we get close to it. But stay tuned.
There's a bunch of other topics. We'll see you next week. Dr. Bartlett. Always.
Absolutely, Dr. White. See you later. And